Hello, y'all. It's Katera. We are on the third season of Heart Satisfactions with Katera Speaks. Today we have Brian Seth Hurst, a special guest. And if you are new here, let me tell you a little bit about this podcast. I'm Katera. I'm a multi-storyteller, and this podcast is about inspiring self-love, expressions, and courageous authenticity. And here we will share our thoughts, our feelings, our experiences, and we are here on this journey together. So, today we have Brian Seth Hurst. Today is his 69th birthday. If you guys are here and listen to this later, say happy birthday, happy belated birthday to Brian. He is an author, a producer, a strategist, and multiple more. Let's bring it to Brian. Tell us a little more about yourself.
Well, thanks. First of all, thanks for having me. And
Of
it's
course.
fun to do something like this on my birthday. I can honestly say I've never done an interview on my birthday before. Just listening to you talk about the podcast on my whiteboard, I have my purpose, which is to connect and engage authentically with the divine, with God, and inspire. So doing your podcast is right on purpose for me. So let's see. I mean, I grew up in a show business family. My father was on television. My mother was a television producer. As a matter of fact, she was the first woman television producer in Philadelphia. And so I sort of felt like I should go into show business because I grew up around it. Wasn't what my dad aspired for me to do, but I did end up first as an actor in New York, and then being realistic about whether that was something I really wanted to pursue or not. Little did I know I would return to performing 40 years later, which was something that just happened. But I ended up in the new media and television business, technology wise. I worked with some of the networks. The last few things I did before the pandemic was virtual reality for American Public Television, for PBS, and for Showtime. I worked for Samsung and for a company called Live by Live with Live 360. During the pandemic, I started to like rethink things a little bit about, where I wanted to put my energy. And I still produce. I'm still involved in a startup company in Montreal, which I'm very excited to be a part of. I'm a co-founder, and so I get to keep my hand in. But Whole, that was a book that came out of a not so great experience I had as a creator and a television producer. I had a show with Buna Murray, the reality television company, and the show was called Determination. I had lived on the Illinois-Iowa border during the 2006 elections and had seen that what the candidates were saying wasn't really showing up in the media. And I thought, well, this is ridiculous. Why don't we just get younger people, millennials, to get out and be reporters on the ground to say what's actually happening and what's actually being said instead of it being, I wanted to disintermediate the media. So that first round, we came very, very close to producing the show. I gave it my heart and soul. Didn't happen. Had to wait 4 more years to do it again. And then it crashed and burned again because personnel had changed. And sometimes in a company, if the new management aren't the people who created the show or worked with the show, they want to bring in their own things, which I understand. But I got the news in an email, and I was sitting in the airport in Moline, Illinois, getting ready because I was living in two places, Moline, Illinois, and Los Angeles. And I thought, what do I do now? And I was really like taken aback. It was like you give your heart to everything. And, I do hold the belief, Katera, that something good can come out of something bad, that there's something positive to be learned. And I was sitting there and I just posed the question. I said, what do I do now? And I heard, give us 30 days. And at the end of 30 days, you will have a book. And the name of that book is Whole. And so that's what I did. I basically kind of took dictation. It came through. I had a very good friend of mine, Terry Bergman, be my accountability buddy so that I would do a chapter a day. And sometimes I got the chapter in at 11:59, but I got it in. And each day for 30 days, I gave over to this. Sometimes I would hear the chapter first. Sometimes I would start to get the text. It wouldn't matter where I was. I wrote on my phone. I wrote on my office computer. I wrote on, you know, I recorded things when I was walking. And at the end of 30 days, I did have a book. And that book came out. It got really good reviews. And then I went back to my life. I didn't really think about it. And then a lot of people started getting emails of people saying, why isn't there an audiobook? And I was like, I don't know. And so decided to record the audiobook. But because the audiobook would come so many years after the original book, I thought, well, I should probably do a little revision. And I talked to a friend of mine, Sally Olmsted, who was PR. We went to lunch, and I said, look, this time I would like this book to get out to more people. And she said, look, this book is over a decade old. No one is able to promote a book that's over a decade old. You should do a workbook. Now, I think the universe sends you prompts and signals all the time. And when she said you should do a workbook, bing, a bell went off. And I thought, you are absolutely right. Because the way these chapters are set up, you could, with most books like this, spiritual books, self discovery books, you read the book and then you put it down. And you may remember it made a difference in your life. You may go back to it later, but you really don't dig in more deeply unless you're someone who journals on what you learn. So I said, okay, I'm going to do that workbook. Now, that did not take 30 days, that took almost 2 years. Um, but each chapter of the workbook expands on each chapter of the book. So it does give the reader an opportunity to go that much deeper. Now, I didn't want to send anyone over the edge, Katira, with this work, because when you start to do self examination, it can be intense. So I said, I have a mailing list of people who I've worked with as an intuitive over the years. That was like, I joke about the title hole because I had two separate lives, one in the entertainment industry and one in the spiritual industry, and they didn't really come together. And so it was like, okay, well, I am going to call upon these clients and ask them if they'd like to volunteer as the exercises are written to do the workbook. And they did. Their feedback was invaluable. One of them, Alicia Clickinger, became the editor of the workbook. And I was able to alter or make things more clear for those people who were doing the workbook. And those participants said that the book was life changing. So I knew I had to continue and I knew I had to get it out. And I knew it had to be beautiful and it had to be formatted well. Even when I talked with the book designer, I said, because the exercises are so intense, the font has to be relaxing. You know, the print, the color, the way it works just has to be warm and welcoming rather than like academic. And so then finally I jumped through a million hoops because I decided I did want to self-publish this book. And so I went through a million hoops with Amazon, with Lulu. And at the same time, I did do the audio book. And so we said, okay, well, we'll release the audio book at the same time release the workbook. That way people can listen to the audio book, a chapter, and then go do the workbook. So that's kind of how it all came out. And in terms of performing and doing the dream, um, during the pandemic, I kept running into the gentleman, Michael Orland, who was my musical director 40 years ago when I was performing. And I jokingly said, what if I were to sing again? And the result was that 3 years later, I ended up back on stage in a one-man show, and I'm still doing it. So,
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
so that's kind of it.
Yeah, I remember seeing some clips about your one man show. That's amazing.
Yeah,
And
it's
oh,
been a lot of fun. I've learned that there's a lot of value when you don't have anything to prove and you're just willing to share.
yeah, I go by the phrase, if you speak from the heart, you speak to the heart of others. Just be yourself.
I I wholeheartedly agree.
Yes. Yeah, I was going through your workbook and I thought I was gonna breeze through it. I thought I was gonna breeze through the book because I read all the time. And I was like, wow, this is a lot to digest. And there, you broke the workbook down to journals, a journal entry. We had the exercise, the real life situation, real life reflection. And I was like, okay, this is amazing. I really like this one quote that you had in the beginning. If you guys need to check it out, check out the workbook whole and the original book,
I'm
listen
gonna
to the
have to look up.
audio.
I'm gonna have to look up what you say because I don't know any writer that can remember what they have actually written in the book. So I that's why I have it right here. So go ahead.
Yes. So VI, that is number 6 in Roman numerals, right? VI. It was talking
Okay.
about you broke down is the introduction and instructions about honesty. Consider the workbook a wholly confidential safe space. You are writing just for you, no one else, and certainly no audience. Today, we're gonna both work through this together. So you guys are the audience. Though when you guys are doing this by yourselves, you don't have to share with nobody. And I was like, okay, so you can be safe being honest with yourself. This self-awareness is important. This is the act of self-love. And I saw that somewhere. In the next one, VII, you said, I consider doing this work as an act of self-love. How you treat yourself during the process is a choice. Autonomy, guys. So you can decide how you treat yourself, and that is so important. And Brian said, you can either be in judgment and be at the effective self-critic, or you can treat yourself with kindness, love, and compassion, having reverence and acceptance for your feelings and being available to comfort yourself during the process. I was like, that was powerful. This is really coaching you through how to approach this workbook. You can
That
love
was
yourself,
it.
guys.
It was so important to me to land the instructions to make sure that they were clear, um, and to make sure that people reading would not get stuck in the right or the wrong way to do it, but that whatever you were going to experience was going to be your experience, and that no one is judging you. You're not getting an A for doing this workbook or an F. You are progressing on a journey, and your commitment. There's a line about commitment in there as well in the introduction from William Hutchinson Murray. And that quote is, whatever you can do or dream you can do, begin it now. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. Begin it now. So it's urging the reader to be bold, even in, like I said earlier, even in the toughest of circumstances. There is something positive to be gained. There is something to be learned. And when you're able to express your feelings about those circumstances instead of stuffing them, and you're going to have whatever reaction or response you have, but having reverence for those feelings and letting them come up, then the lesson becomes clearer. It's easier to see, especially if you want to blame someone else for something. You really don't know what they have gone through, and you might be taking that personally, and it might not be about you at all. And so
Mm-hmm.
there's different, and you and I discussed this previously. We were talking about detachment as the exercise we're going to do. There, if something is not about you, and you're able to let go of that and see that objectively, chances are you'll see that person's fear, and that fear is motivating the behavior. And unfortunately, we're hurt people. And so this gives you the opportunity to take responsibility for your own feelings, for when you are hurt, even for the things that you might have done to other people that you need to forgive yourself for. So I don't think, Katira, that the information is new, but I think that the way things are delivered reaches different people in different ways. So
Certainly.
I could read one spiritual book that resonates with me, and you would read the same book and you wouldn't get it at all. So that's why I think there are so many different ways that this information, the core of which is self-acceptance, self-love, being empowered within yourself to make a difference in the world and have that return to you. I just think different teachers, different books reach different people in different ways. So while the information isn't new, some people might find this really comprehensive and easy to do. I've had some of the volunteers actually said, "Oh, I'm not going to write in the book. I'm going to save the book and I'm going to do it every year. I'm not going to write it all in a
Hmm.
journal and do it every year." And the other thing that you mentioned is, yes, the beginning journaling is an amazing practice to get present with oneself. And so every exercise begins with journaling so that you can be aware of your feelings. I always call it like I'm dumping what's in my brain onto paper so I can clear my head and get to the next thing.
Which is wonderful. Yes, a lot of things in life, a lot of books, a lot of shows, it's not totally original, the concept has been done before, though it's rearranged in a way that brings a new perspective on how things are delivered. And that's wonderful. So we was talking about the detachment. We're gonna talk about the detachment chapter. If you guys have the book, turn to the page in the workbook. Let's see.
It's
It
page
is
48 in the workbook. And in the original book, that chapter is page 73.
48
I
in
love
the
the
workbook.
I love the question in the book starts out, do you have life or does life have you? Are you at the source of your life, consistently aware that your thoughts and beliefs are creating the life you have and will have in every moment? Or are you at the effect of the people, behaviors, and things that take place around you that reflect a deeper set of beliefs about life? Are you in response to events, meaning you see and know your responsibility in their creation and in their effect? Or are you in reaction? As I've mentioned, doing the same action again and again due to a similar set of circumstances, and by virtue of the reaction, getting the same set of results. So,
Reminds me of insanity, doing the same thing,
yes,
expecting different results.
yes. So, although I don't include this in the book, being a human,
Mm-hmm.
I have a little system because I can get annoyed pretty easily by things that are getting in the way or things that don't have the same result that I would have wanted them to have. And so letting go of that circumstance or that person may be a challenge for me because I'm still a human being. So I have what I call the D list. And the D list, I
Uh,
didn't put this in the book, but the D list is a list of things that I want to detach from, the things that have me rather or are hooked to me or I'm hooked to them. And so when I make that list, and in the book, I suggest that people, there's a little diagram in the book that I can hold up. And what I suggest is that you say, okay, you know what? Here's a great analogy. Imagine that you were standing on the ground and you were holding a rope that was attached to a roller coaster, but you weren't in the roller coaster, you were on the ground. So
mm,
when the roller coaster went up, you went way high. And when the roller coaster came down, you were slammed to the ground. So you were totally the effect of the roller coaster. The other illustration I use is when I was a kid, we used to go to the ice capades, the ice show, and they would do this pinwheel, right? And
mm-hmm.
the woman that was at the center of the pinwheel, she was just very calm, right? But with each person that joined, they became at the effect and they magnified that effect. So the poor person that was at the end of the line and everybody cheered for her, but she had to race to keep up because she was being whipped around.
Mm,
So I imagine the detachment as that rope, and I don't want to be whipped around. So in
right.
this exercise, and it says, um, the first step, I'm just going to read a little bit from the workbook here, which is also out of the book. The first step in promoting the change is detachment. I've spoken a lot about letting go. Let's talk about one method. This can begin with a visualization in your mind whereby you imagine all the ropes attached to you from others and that you have attached to others just falling away. You may even notice where the ropes are attached. Are your hands tied? That may mean that you do not believe you have the power to create in your life and that you're at the mercy of the creation of others. Is your heart bound? This may mean you do not feel free to have or create that which your heart desires. If the rope goes from your heart and binds to the heart of someone else, it may mean that you want him or her to conform to your idea of what it is to love and be loved. You then have the dynamic of attachment tied to expectation, or worse, manipulation. They then would not be free to express their own ways of loving and being loved. Wherever the attachment is, once you see it, allow yourself to listen to see if there is information and guidance for you associated with the points of detachment. So then I ask that people pick, I think 8 people here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah. And you fill in the blank. And as you go through, you're imagining things being unhooked and you're gaining clarity, hopefully. And this is the wheel of detachment. And what it says is, now imagine the cable disconnecting and dropping to the ground. Then breathe and ask yourself the following questions relative to each attachment. What am I learning here? So if you and I were attached and I felt you pulling me or me pulling you, what are we
Mhm.
learning from each other? Why did I create this situation with you or co-create this situation with you? What am I getting out of it? What is my lesson? And then what is my choice? If I
Mm.
have choice in this, how do I want to resolve this? How do I want to continue? And this is like a meditative exercise. So you imagine that dropping and then you say, what am I learning here? I'm learning that there's a pattern where from this person that I give way too much, that I expect the same back in return, that I don't get it. And maybe they don't even know what my expectations are, but maybe I need to look at my motivation for giving. So and it could be different. What you're going to get, Katera, is completely different from what I'm going to get. And that's the
Correct.
beauty of it, is that your own uniqueness. And then you talk about, okay, so the real world application of this, because every exercise in the workbook has a real world application. And I'll tell you my favorite one in a minute. But this one says, let go and let God again in any given set of circumstances. So the real world application is what you take out into the world and apply. In any given set of circumstances, it is possible to let go and let God while you were in it. The fear of getting something or of not getting something will take you out of the present and into the future. The moment when you notice that fear is the moment the moment when you notice that fear is the moment of opportunity. Take a moment to step back by breathing. Take at least 3 deliberate breaths and exhale slowly. With each exhalation, feel yourself calming and feel the attachment to the outcome incrementally lessen. You will find yourself centered and present, and you can ask those 2 questions of yourself calmly. What am I learning here? What is my choice? Well, that was fun reading that. I haven't read it in a while.
Ah. So does detachment is the idea of letting go of your value to something, or actually letting go of people, places, things?
It's actually letting go of people and places and things that you are at the effect of. Otherwise, they wouldn't come up.
Mm.
I ask people all the time to take their first thought. So, and sometimes what I imagine in a detachment list, especially someone that I feel I've been hurt by, what I imagine in that detachment list is after the rope is unhooked, either it's hooked to me or hooked to them, after the rope falls, I just imagine that person falling back and away, like fading back and away into what's best for them. Like I don't wish them ill when I do this. It's just I choose to forgive them and release them because I don't want to hurt anymore, because I don't want this pulling at me. And even if I don't have them to resolve the situation, like I can't discuss it with them, I can still let go. Even if I think, and I'm someone who's I like to be a peacemaker. I like to have it all come out very nice and, let's shake hands at the end. But that is not always possible. But in the detachment, that might be possible. And my favorite real world exercise is the humanization of every experience, which is when I'm working with a waiter or someone who's a parking attendant or an accountant or whatnot, someone that I wouldn't know. I always ask them their name. Last night's a perfect example when we were at the bowling alley. The gentleman that was helping us, I said to him, "What is your name?" And he said, "My name is Andrew." And I said, "My name is Brian. It's nice to meet you." So suddenly you've humanized the entire experience. And in that, the person that's serving you is acknowledged for their service. And chances are they'll become even more helpful. And the real great thing is that if they're having a bad day, you can change that day for them in a minute, in an instant. So that's my favorite real world application.
Humanizing our people, humanizing our experiences. Just acknowledgement
Connecting.
can go a long
Yep.
way. It
Yep.
does. All right. Yeah. I
So
hope you
I,
guys
I didn't know
followed.
if you wanted, I'm sorry. I didn't know if
Oh,
you wanted to actually do the detachment exercise and be walk through it for yourself, but that could be kind of vulnerable.
we can do it, and you guys can also do it at home when you guys listen to this. Um, yeah,
Okay, so
I will
close your eyes,
share
Katara,
what
for a
I want to
minute.
share. But
Yeah, there you
you
go.
guys, you guys can close your eyes as well and do this with
Take
us.
take a couple of deep breaths, and I'm just going to ask you, who's the first person that comes into mind that you would like to detach from? They're either pulling at you or you're pulling at them. There's a set of expectations, and it has you rather than you having it.
A former friend.
Okay, so now you're going to write that former friend down in that spot. Okay, great. And now you can close your eyes again, and you're just going to visualize the rope, a cable. It could be a certain color, it's whatever turns up, going from you to them. And see where the rope is attached to you and see where it's attached to them. So, where is it attached to you?
Like my stomach.
Okay, great. And where is it attached to them?
Like their shoulder.
Okay, great. So, first thing I want you to do is have a good long look at them and just see what you see and see what you're feeling in your body. And now I want you to just let the rope detach from either you or them. See who detaches, where it detaches first, and tell me.
Detach from them first.
Okay, great. And now let it detach from you and just let the rope fall and disintegrate.
All right.
Now, ask yourself honestly, what did I learn from this person or experience? Take your first thought.
Um, to be myself, even if other people want to be me, if that makes sense.
Okay,
To
elaborate a little
remain,
bit.
to um to continue being myself, even if other people want to um be me as well. You know, like the
Okay,
envy,
so if you know what that, oh, envy. Okay,
envy.
so do you feel that that envy was doing damage to the relationship?
Yes,
Okay, so what did you learn about them from this attachment?
that I learned about them that they didn't really love themselves.
Okay, that maybe they weren't secure in who they were.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you're doing these exercises, sometimes it comes up that you get to see that person really clearly. So if you see that this person didn't love themselves, that's not about you, right?
Right.
That's about them. So if their behavior towards you and in this attachment was envy, but they didn't love themselves, first of all, if they didn't love themselves, there's probably no way that they could love you. But
Mm.
you could see fear there. And the bottom line, most cases in the situation, is they didn't believe that they were enough. And so that kind of became that behavior, right? So now you said, I've learned that I can be myself even in the face of others where there is envy. And how I deal with that is I don't have to resent being myself. I just have to be in myself. And then I've learned that this person, that they may actually have been afraid or insecure or not love themselves. And then you can say to yourself, because now you're not attached, you might be able to have compassion for that person now, because you might be able to see what they're really going through. And then now the next question is, what is my choice here? So, what is your choice? Take your first thought.
To continue loving myself and let them, like, it's understandable that they are insecure, you know, though it is not my responsibility to convince them that they are worthy, that they are lovable in who they are.
Yeah. So, what I interpret that, and you're going to be writing these things down, obviously. What I interpret that to mean is it's okay, just as it's okay for me to be me and be where I am in my path, it's okay for you to be you and be okay where you are in your path. And you bring up something really important, which is, we all want to contribute to other people's lives, because that makes us feel good when we give something valuable, when we serve, that makes us feel good. But a lot of times the other person didn't ask for it, they don't want it, they're not ready for it. So a pretty good rule of thumb is, if you're going to tell somebody what you think they need to do, they may actually feel attacked if they haven't asked.
Right.
And if they feel attacked, then they're going to respond the same way. Now, what I look at is so this is one step further, which I don't explain in the book, but this would come up. I also do private coaching. So this comes up in the whole LifeWorks program. If I look, and this, not all the exercises in the book are part of the program, but some of them are. So you said, oh, well, the rope is connected to my gut. So to my stomach. So that indicates to me that something about your gut instinct was not employed in this. In other words, you made the attachment from gut instinct. The fact that it was attached to their shoulder, and can I ask whether it was the right or the left?
It was their left.
Okay, so the left side of the body represents the relationship to the self. The right side of the body represents the relationship to the world. So part of the interpretation is your gut instinct. You wanted to help them not be burdened by self-discovery, because the shoulder is burdened.
Mm.
So the body is an amazing map. And you can't go into all of that in the workbook, but the lesson that you got, this is what I learned about myself, this is what I learned about them, and this is my choice. That's where the workbook is helpful.
Yes, that self-discovery, the compassion. They cultivate
Yep.
compassion for sure. The humanization.
Yeah. When you have that level of compassion, like, oh my God, this person must really be going through something to do this or to act this way or to behave this way. Is it possible for me to forgive them? It doesn't mean you don't draw boundaries and you say, you don't get to talk to me like that, or you get to say that. But you might get to ask, if it's a valuable relationship to you after you do the detachment, you might get to ask yourself, what is my bottom line? What do I really want here? And what do they really want here? Because a lot of times we don't get to the bottom line and we don't know what the other person wants and they don't know what we want.
The lack of communication. And if you don't even know what it is for yourself, that also affects things.
Yeah. So the workbook, I guess we could have titled it Know Thyself, but the workbook gives you that opportunity to know what your beliefs are, know what your patterns are, and that you have the power and the ability to change those patterns and to transform those beliefs.
That's
I call the belief
powerful.
system, yeah. I call there's also an exercise in the workbook on beliefs. And you do a chart and you put the 10 most influential people down one side, and there are certain categories of beliefs, whether it's family or money or creativity. You fill out that chart and you put it away. And then you bring it out the next day or 2 days later and you highlight those beliefs that you think you took on. And that is your human operating system. You are operating out of those beliefs and you can change those beliefs. So the bottom column is you and is what is the new belief? Because say you grew up and your father just didn't believe that he would ever have money. It was always a scarcity mentality. And so he might have said, we can't afford that, or money doesn't grow on trees, or you don't value money, or whatever those things are that are said to us as kids, boom, they go in as beliefs. So changing to a mindset, changing the mindset of the belief to say, wait a minute, that might not have been true. That may have been his experience. But look, there are plenty of people in the world who don't live from that experience, and they might not have that belief. So what might my new belief be?
That is
Yeah,
powerful.
very. It's funny. I'm discussing this with you. You know, I've been in the nitty gritty of marketing the book. And I just want to thank you, Katera, because going through this with you reminds me of what the book really does and what the value of the book is.
You're welcome, and thank you. For sure, because sometimes when we write things, you said you wrote it in 30 days. For not the workbook. The workbook was two years, and the original book was written in 30 days. So this is a refresher. Like,
Yeah.
we all that's why journaling is important. I love that you said journal it, so we can capture our thoughts, our feelings, and these experiences, because we don't remember everything. Memories is faulty. So that's so important that we have this, and you can do this every year. Like, one of the people who went through the book, they do it every year, or you can get another book. You can just purchase multiple
Yeah.
books, y'all.
We chose the paper very carefully too, because I wanted to make sure when I said to the book designer, I want to make sure the book is easy to write in because some paper is not easy to write on, you know. And I said, I just need to make the experience good. Just it needs to be easy, graceful. That's it. The pen needs to
Great.
gracefully slide across the paper.
Yes. So if you guys definitely want to go through, this is a self-discovery, self-awareness journey. This is for you guys once you guys get the book. And other people, everyone can go on their journey together among your friends, your family, your
It's funny you
community.
should mention that. Really funny you should mention that. So, yeah, I meditate every day, and every once in a while something comes through, or you'll be doing something and it comes through. And it was like, it could be really challenging for some people to do this book by themselves. Just like if you're working out at home, it's more difficult, I think, than working out at the gym where everybody's working out. And so I thought, should there be groups where people can support each other in doing the workbook? And then I thought, well, let me do an experiment. So I asked once again, went to the community and asked for volunteers, and we'll see how it works. But the next 2 Saturdays, the first Saturday is going through chapters 1 to 5. The next one is 6 to 10, to sort of see what people need and how they do it and how they can support one another. And if this works out the way I think it will, then we'll take the next step and set up community so that people can support each other in doing the workbook, can share their experience and their insights, and maybe not just support each other, but maybe also learn from each other. So it's really funny that you should mention that. Obviously, the universe is putting a check mark next to that as something that needs to be done. Something else I've learned in listening to my own audiobook is that the information is both timely, like it's really appropriate for what's going on right now in the world, and timeless. It's like
Mm.
universal and it will always be appropriate.
Yeah, it helps you with your journey because we all have our journeys together and as individuals. So I love that idea that you actually creating those 2 days for people to go through, and you guys can also do it among people you already know. This could be a bonding experience if you're willing to share. You get to know yourself more, and choice. Remember, you always have a choice. You don't have to share everything. Share what you're comfortable. I
Absolutely.
love it.
Absolutely. And there's so much, I mean, I've been in support groups before, and there's so much you learn from other people's experiences. Um, it may trigger you sometimes, but it's giving you the opportunity to look at something you might not have looked at. And it's
It's
not an
true.
accident.
I saw something. You was talking about coincidences. It's not an accident. Somewhere in the book. I'm not sure which one is it, but it's all alignment.
the I couldn't tell you where it is either, but I remember some interesting things in the book. There's a section in the book about heart transplants and the agreement between the person who had the heart and the person who receives the heart and what that's about. And I couldn't even remember what that section is about, but I just remember thinking when I heard it back, wow, that is absolutely fascinating and absolutely true. And there's also a section about stewardship of the planet. Um, that if you feel the planet is, I'm paraphrasing here, going to hell in the handbasket, and that's your belief, then that is what will happen. But if you believe in solutions and you look at it in the most positive frame of mind, then you might be the one to find those solutions. So it really is about the conversation you have with yourself and how you think and how that affects reality.
Yeah, our focus, where we focus our energy, asking the questions or what we think about, it shapes how we experience life. And everyone can experience it differently. You can be in the same exact situation, though with a different mindset and different perspective. You guys will perceive it differently and remember it differently.
To me, it's also, am I going to be at the effect of this, or am I going to be at the source of a response to it? You know, am I going to be the one running around with my hair on fire? Well, I know it's happening. Or am I going to be the one that goes to center and says, well, is there something for me to do here? What might the solution be? And I'm not saying you can't run around for 5 minutes with your hair on fire. Just put it out. It doesn't have to be a permanent condition. It's like, okay, I'm activated. My trigger's been pulled. How do I feel? That is it. There's a great book by Kristen Neff called Self Compassion. That's like a Bible. I have it sitting here someplace. It's not on that shelf, but I have it. And the idea is that, you know, to to be able to soothe yourself. Even if you didn't get it as a kid, you can still give it to that child inside as an adult.
Yeah, I said, you said also said this in the book. Self love is a practice, it's a choice, it's a process. Here is a journey, you know? And the more you do it, the more momentum you create, and it becomes a habit, a lifestyle to love yourself in different ways. And self discovery and self awareness is one of them, as well as meditation. Meditation can be done in multiple ways. It can be when you're taking a shower, while you're eating, while you're walking. It doesn't have to be closing your eyes in complete silence.
I agree. I agree. I also, you know, I call it spiritual chiropractic adjustment. It's like if your habit is that you constantly berate yourself or you judge yourself for, well, I should know this by now, or I've learned about this, or why am I doing this again? That you get to make that adjustment into self-compassion. It's like, oops, that's out of line again. So let me just adjust that. So I call it like that because in chiropractic, the longer something has been out of whack, the more adjustment you need to make over time. So it's making these small adjustments, and those small things add up over time. So the miracle may not happen in 15 seconds, but it might happen in 15 minutes or 15 days.
Yeah, that self compassion is so important, especially when you realize the thought patterns and your emotions. At first, it might be so out of control that you don't even recognize it because it's so normal. Though, once we take a step back or go through the workbook and ask these questions for ourselves, it helps us ground, helps us see a different way.
I think having patience and self awareness, love, basically how you're feeling through the process. Like if you were a parent and you were paying attention to that child, the first thing you would do would be to allow their feelings. And what you would do as a parent is create a safe space for those feelings to exist so that the
Mm-hmm.
child could work through those feelings to understanding and to the realizations.
That is so important. Yeah, I love it. If you guys haven't checked it out, check it out for Brian Seth Hurst because it's powerful. There are so many chapters. I was trying to go through all of it and it was a lot, though this is a process day by day, one chapter a day or one chapter a week. You can go over the questions multiple times, the exercises, and the real life implications. Because when you first look at the book, it's called Reconcile Your Past, Embrace Your Present, and Create Your Future.
Yeah. And it happens that way. You have to come into the present. You know, I've said that fear always exists in the past or in the future. And if I'm moving forward and I'm looking over my shoulder in the past and I'm unwilling to reconcile and let it go, I'm not going to see what's in front of me. I'm not going to see my opportunity. If I bump into someone, I might think they're attacking me rather than offering me something. And the same thing, if
Mhm.
I go way too far afield into the future, then I may miss what's right in front of me that's an opportunity. And by the same token, if I'm focused, like so focused like this, I might miss things that are going to contribute to me on either side of the journey. So presence is like super valuable.
How can someone become more present?
Well, first of all, I use my senses when I'm like totally all over the place. The first thing I do is I breathe, I engage in deeper breathing and it works. But then I'm like, okay, what am I hearing? What am I seeing? I let my eyes just roam the room and land. Is there a taste in my mouth? What am I smelling? What does the temperature feel like on my skin? So I'm using my senses to bring me into the present. And then I usually go and journal. You know, it's funny. I just finished. This was on my birthday too. So this is September the 1st of 2024 to today. And then this is the new journal that's just begun today. And I have years and years and years of these. And if ever something comes up that's like super important, or I think it's a revelation, or I think I've made some progress, or I think I should remember this, I just highlight it. Or I use those little paper tabs that you put in. and color code them like green. This is really healing and really important. So,
That's good. So let's practice some mindfulness now. You guys in the audience, you guys listening, what do you see right now? Look around. Let me tell you what I see right now. I see Brian on the screen. I see my microphone. I see my phone, my laptop. Um, I see happy. Actually, I have some happy birthday balloons. And today is Brian's 69th birthday. So happy birthday once again. um,
when was
so,
your birthday?
my birthday was in January.
And you
But
still
it's,
have the balloons. That's pretty
yeah,
good.
I know. I'm not even sure how it's staying up so long. Okay, Ryan, what do you see?
I see myself in the screen. Um, I have a lot of lights, so I see that light. Now, this is interesting. I see stuff on my desk, and instead of being present, I'm thinking, boy, I really need to clean off that desk. That is not helpful. But it's a thought I have to have. So I have the thought, and then I go, okay, what I see now is a bottle of lens cleaner, and what I see is a highlighter, and what I see is the stack of whole books. So that's what I see. And what I see in front of me is, and I'm going to have a response. So what I see in front of me is this beautiful desk that my other half built for me that I absolutely love and love the color of. And now I'm closing my eyes, so I've already moved to the next thing. I'm feeling the surface of the desk.
Mm. The next one is touch. What do you feel? You felt the surface of the desk. I'm feeling my mouse pad because it's right in front of me.
Yeah.
Oh, I have a capybara. It's nice and soft. And wherever you guys are listening to this, what can you see? What can you feel? Whether it's your clothes, the texture of your clothes, or anything else in your surroundings. What other mindfulness senses can we talk about?
Well, what do you smell? So, and I have candles in the room, so that's what I smell.
What does it smell like?
It's lemony. It's sweet. Um, yeah, that's the overriding smell.
All right.
And it also forces me to breathe.
Yeah, take a deep breath.
Mm.
I can't really describe the air. I feel like objects has more smell. My shirt smells like a fresh, clean hoodie. Like
There
fresh,
you go.
clean laundry. And you guys can do that at home if you guys don't have candles or incense. You can smell an object because they hold smells. And the next one was
Taste,
um
if there's a taste in your mouth. I just have this sweet taste and a little bit of coffee.
oh,
Mm.
nice. I brushed my teeth because I ate right before, self-care is important, eating is important. So I ate some food and I brushed my teeth so I have the minty taste in my mouth.
And then what do you hear? So that's different. So what I hear right now is I hear a leaf blower outside. I hear the tick of the clock in my office. I hear a low buzz. I hear my computer churning. Yeah.
I hear the cars outside. Um I hear the AC and my laptop. Yeah, mostly cars. Cars or planes. I'm not sure. One of them.
So when you're running through all of these, you have your feelings first and then you run and then it's calming. It really does get you in the moment. It's really fun to do if you're outside on a hike.
Oh yes. Maybe you guys can see some animals. Or hear the birds chirping, the leaves. If you guys are doing hiking in the woods. Sometimes can you hike on the beach? I think it's walking on the
Sure.
beach, right? Hiking on the
Yeah.
beach. Yeah, it's different scenic
If you
routes you
got
guys can
if you
do.
got dunes,
Ooh, yeah, there's so many places you guys can hike. You like hiking?
I
Oh,
do.
do you like hiking?
Are you asking me or asking the audience?
I was asking you. I realized it sounded like a statement. You like hiking? It's
Yeah,
like
I do. Unfortunately, the area that I live in the what's called the interface next to the mountains in Sierra Madre, California, and the fire was stopped 1,000 feet before our home. But
oh,
those trails, those hiking trails, they burned or they got washed out by the rains that have come afterwards. So I understand that they're rebuilding them now, but it'll be a while before we can go back up there and hike.
oh my. I hope everyone is safe, the people you know, and you find new hiking spots. It's
Yeah,
very calming.
you gotta explore.
Yeah, new hiking spots. Maybe you had to travel a little farther, get some fresh air. I also like hiking myself. I remember I went camping as well, and it was a different experience, especially with other people, because you're I feel like hiking is a individual experience because of what's going through your mind, calming your nervous system, and then when you're with others, you can process things and be in the moment. Yeah, a walk
Yeah,
in
it's
meditation.
interesting. Everybody, if you're challenged in the hike and there are rocks and things to climb over, everybody sort of helps each other. Like, well, we did this way, or we went this way, or tried this way. So it's like, yeah, there's a dynamic of helpfulness there so that everybody can get to the destination.
Yes, that connection. I love it. So, where can people find you, Brian?
Well, you can go to wholelifebook.com and all of the information about the books are there. There is information there as well about the Whole Life Works coaching program. And you can always join the mailing list on the web from the website. There are also buttons that you can click to buy the workbook either from Amazon or Lulu. You can get the audiobook from Audible. So it's all right there. Whole Life Book is there. If people want to follow on social, I never remember these. I should write them down and have them right in front of me. Um, but my regular Instagram is BS Hurst at Instagram. Whole Life Book is whole_life book at Instagram. Um, I think TikTok is just Whole Life Book. The most active group is Facebook, and that's Facebook/ Hold the Book. There are 1,000 members of the community now. That's where, when we start to do the groups, if we do the groups, that's where you'll have the opportunity to join from. So Facebook is the most active. I am on TikTok. My personal TikTok is Brian Seth Hurst, all one word, 8. And that's where some of the performances are. Same thing with the YouTube channel, Brian Seth Hurst. That's where some of the performances are. And then TikTok, I think, is Whole Life Book on TikTok. I'm not sure. I really do need to write these down and have them in front of me. I'm not huge on social, so it's not something I think of. But to get the books, to inquire about the coaching program, to even I do private readings. I've done them for years and years and years. Every time I've tried not to do them, I end up doing them. Um, so those intuitive readings, um, you just sign up on the mailing list and indicate that that's what you're interested in, and I will get back to you uh, with more information about length of session, time zones, cost, things like that. But so wholelifebook.com.
And the book the workbook is available and the original book. You can find his book on multiple platforms. It's also an audiobook. Is the audiobook out as well?
Yes, it's on Audible, and I really love the audiobook. I listen to it when I'm working out. I don't have an issue with my own voice. I just pretend it's someone else. And so I'm listening to it and I'm going, oh, wow, I really need to know that. Oh, that's good. Especially given everything that's happening in the world right now, having a way to hold your center in all of that um, is important.
It is. Sometimes I listen to my own podcast episodes and with a fresh perspective. It's like, wow. Especially the bonus episodes about self-reflecting. It's like, okay, that was a reassurance I needed. It's like that recap. It feels different because it's from the past. Technically, that's your past self who giving you this message, the audiobook. So you guys can get the audiobook, you can listen to it or you can read it. You can also have the workbook, which is a self-discovery journey, and you can do it with other people, which is so helpful. And there's a community that Brian has that you can join on the Facebook group.
Yep.
Yeah.
And hopefully we will be doing those groups for everyone, or giving people the opportunity to host those groups for themselves. I don't know. I'm waiting for the universe to kind of deliver what the content will be and what the form of that content will be. So I'm kind of relaxed about it, because when I am, it just occurs to me how something should happen, rather than if I'm fighting for it and struggling and going, what do I do? What do I do? That just creates friction.
Mm-hmm. See what aligns. Go with the flow, with awareness, which is so important. And a reiteration, the whole book companion workbook says, reconcile your past, embrace your present, and create your future. Keep those in mind, keep those in mind. As we're wrapping up, if you guys are listening to this and you get nothing else, Brian, what is something you want everyone to know if they got nothing out of this? What is something they can keep in mind?
Wow, that is a really good question. I would say you're probably more powerful than you know. And power, my definition of power is the ability to create. And I would add to that, the conversation you have with yourself and how you speak with yourself is most important.
That is so powerful. I love it. Remember, you guys have choice. Choice is autonomy, and you have autonomy. Self-care is a practice. So if we could have the social medias and the links, it will be in the description. You guys can listen to other podcast episodes. And this season, as I told you guys in the trailer, we're going to have more podcast guests. So if you guys want to share your stories, want to speak from your heart and share what you guys have, reach out to me at kateraspeaks@gmail.com. Let me know. And yeah, you guys can check out other episodes. This will continue to be a journey that we are taking on, expressing ourselves, our thoughts, and our feelings. So thank you guys so much. Until next time, see y'all soon.